Welcome to the Heritage Hikers. I'm Mark Richards.
And I'm Pete Savin.
We're on Hadrian's Wall and we're exploring that today. We hope to do a sequence of explorations of Hadrian's Wall country over a period of time. Where are we going today, Pete?
Well, we're going to set off at Greenhead, and then we're going to go west, and we're going to finish off at Birdoswald Fort.
Fascinating stretch of wall. Some of it's visible, some of it isn't. That's one of the enigmas of Hadrian's Wall, and that's what we're looking at. The enigmas, the detail, the fascination, the landscape setting, you name it, we'll be looking for it. And as great chums, I hope you'll enjoy our conversation.
And we're going to be broadcasting this on YouTube and putting excerpts, there we go, slip of the tongue, excerpts on Twitter. So keep an eye out for those.
Brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
There we go.
Well, I'm with Catherine Jarvis at this moment. We're at Longmire, and we're beside what looks like a railway abutment. Actually, it's got Hadrian's Wall perched on top of it. We're on the busy road, car whizzing by, but it's intriguing, Catherine. I don't think everybody is really aware of its existence, are they really?
Yeah, we've got a holiday business over there and a tour guiding business. So up here you can see a nice chunk of Hadrian's Wall, which all the cars speed past and don't actually recognise is here. It's been saved by Charles Anderson, who worked for the Ministry of Works for a good 40 years, and he was dedicated to saving large chunks of the wall. There was a road widening scheme going on in the 50s. In 1957 he happened to be passing, and he said, can I have a look? He looked at the men, can I have a look, see if there's any wall here? There was. It was referred to Peter Solway and John Gilliam,
yeah.
And it was saved for the nation, 1957.
Right, fabulous.
Here we are, Mark. This is the line of the military way.
On the farm track, or which is now also the golf course approach.
Yeah, this is the approach to Holt Whistle Golf Course and Moor End Farm. Moor End Farm is on the Hadrian's Wall Trail.
Right.
So yeah, old farm track originally, tarmacked over. Perfect line, straight line, old Roman road.
Fascinating. You get the sense of this interrelationship of the supply route, which was possibly used, came into being. What year would you guess?
Well, we were just talking about that, weren't we? We think between 160 AD and 180 AD.
So when they were reconsolidating and rebuilding Hadrian's Wall on the return from the Antonine War, that's when they will have used that route, which has stayed in use right to the present day. I'm speculating, Catherine, if we look at that bank, you've got the trees to the left, which look like they're on the upcast of the wall ditch, and then you've got that bank which looks like it's had the actual stone taken out of it, of the actual wall itself. So you can actually sense where the wall actually was. Invariably you just can't sense it at all, but there you can.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people driving by here pay no heed to that.
No.
But that's archaeological, clarity. Once you see it, you think, hey, that is the wall.
Yeah.
It's a ghost.
Yeah.
But there it is.
Yeah.
Now this is interesting, Catherine. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Okay, so it's down here, right beside the tarmac. We haven't got the best lighting conditions today, but it's basically by the 6th cohort, the century of Lucius Suavis. So we've got, Mark, the inscription in what's called an ansate panel, and that's just basically a rectangular panel, and the ansate refers to the answer for handle at each end. It looks a bit like a Christmas cracker. You've got the 6th cohort, century of Lucius Suavis, and the Suavis refers to charming and elegant. Different sections, that we believe, again, Eric Burley said he was possibly working for the 20th Legion.
20th Legion, and there were how many legions working on the whole wall?
There were 3 legions working on the wall.
Right. Well, that was really good of you, Catherine. I've enjoyed that. I hope you'll come and join heritage hikers on another occasion.
I'd love to, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it too. It's been brilliant.
Well, we're back again on the Hadrian's Wall Trail after a fantastic interview with Catherine, and we're just walking along to the site of Mile Castle 48 at Poltrus Burn, just outside the village of Gilsland. So just a matter of crossing the river and taking a look at this rather fantastic Mile Castle that's just ahead of us. Here we are, Mile Castle 48.
Fascinating place. It really is impressive, isn't it? And on this incredible slope, it's quite remarkable.
It is a steep slope. This is probably one of the first Mile Castles to be probably built along Hadrian's Wall. There was obviously an issue at this end of the wall, the western end, with the Tipple burn just over there, that this was actually a conduit for possibly for enemy incursions and general communications between the native tribes coming through here. So I mean, this is one of the largest mile castles on the wall, so it obviously was built, you know, to deal with an important place.
To have troops here, to
have
a
troops
garrison.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot before a lot of other features were actually built along the wall.
And of course, it's still called the Tyne Gap, this area. So it's
Yeah.
always had even post-Roman times, it was a volatile area.
Of course, as troops have ebbed and flowed along the period of war, we have this sort of blocking here as well. So the door has been made considerably smaller, probably after the reoccupation of the wall, of the Antonine Wall.
Right. So this north wall, the gateway, would have had minimal access. Fewer people would have been going through it.
Yeah.
Certainly not cavalry or horses wouldn't have been coming. Although it's called King's Stables, there weren't too many horses here.
Well, that's the beauty of Hadrian's Wall. It's these myths, isn't it? It's King Arthur, it's the King's Stables.
Yeah, it intrigues me that there are steps like this. To my mind, it could only be to some kind of wall walk in context with the actual Mile Castle itself. Because of course, there's a great deal about a doubt about there being a wall walk along the wall itself. But certainly in the context of this, it makes sense. But it's a rare discovered thing. I have no other evidence of all steps.
I think what they've done is extrapolated the steps to around 12 feet, but bearing in mind that the wall dips down, that could equate to the wall height maybe in around about 14 feet, maybe 4 meters.
Right, that gives you a measure. It's a way of judging how it all would physically be.
Yeah, we only have this evidence, but it's
real.
It's interesting. It's real. Yes, you can touch it.
Yeah. I find this is fun. This is a bread oven of some sort. For the latter stages of the Roman presence here in this Mile Castle, everybody's going to eat the bread of life, and here we are, an oven.
Right, well, we're just approaching turret 48A, which is part of one of the best preserved sections of the wall, walking for any length. Quite stupendous. can see this length of wall there, and you can just see it behind me.
Now this is interesting, Pete.
It is.
This is like a wing wall to the turret.
Yes.
Can you explain it to me?
Basically, the turrets and the mile castles, for the most part, were actually built first, and the curtain wall that connected them up was the second thing to be built. So what happens is the Romans built initially to 10 Roman feet, and then at some point in the plan, they decided to narrow the wall.
Right.
So when they did come to build, secondly, the curtain wall to connect all these turrets and mile castles up in this section of the wall, they found that the broad wall was actually sticking out and had left these wing walls on either side.
Yeah, and it was solid, stable. They don't need to change it.
No, they just butted it straight up against the side, but obviously leaving this. Well, it's probably a handy urinal, I would imagine, for the troops, or to keep out of the wind. So just leave it.
Practical, in other words.
Practical, but this is one of the last walls in the west to actually feature this wing wall.
So the one close to earthing, which would be 48B. Probably is the last one, because beyond there, of course, it was the
I
turret
believe that
wall.
is the last one. When we get there, we will see.
Right.
Right, so for all you wall geeks who like numbered turrets, this is turret number 48B, and it is indeed a wing wall, as you will see. Mark's kindly pointing out. So
Absolutely.
There we go.
Fascinating, really. I'm holding this with like a holy grail, because this is the westernmost point of the broad wall built to full height. So it actually has a little bit of significance.
What he says.
This is interesting. This stone, huge stone that it is, going in back into old money, it's probably about a quarter of a ton in weight. There's what's called a Lewis slot in it, and that is where they put metal prongs in, and as soon as it pulled up, they fanned out, and a great lever would lever it up and move it around. It's the JCB of its age.
Quite a handsome thing, isn't it, Mark?
Large stonework, and what would this be, would you say?
Well, first of all, it's Willeford Bridge abutment, which carried Hadrian's Wall over the River Irthing, and it's been through many phases. Originally, the bridge would have just carried the wall over, so Harris Scar and Mile Castle 49 up on the top there. The tower was demolished, then a larger tower was built, and then that in turn was demolished, and a ramp to actually take the Roman military way, the road, which was built in the late 2nd century, was then built over the top of it to run over the river. So we have many phases.
And then there were towers at either end of the bridge as well. We only get evidence of one here, but the other side's lost because of the river rushing and removing all that section. And a bit of a slot at the top here.
Yeah, we've got a slot now full of water, maybe for thirsty dogs. Yeah, and that would have held timbers that would have held a superstructure for the wooden road surface of the bridge.
And you've got water channels, and
Yeah, we got the leat as well.
because there was a sequence of channels with stonework between.
You would imagine in the Roman period, the rains, the floods, there would have been these occasional so-called once-in-a-lifetime floods which would have just come down and damaged the bridge. I mean, a constant rebuilding and repairing, I would imagine, so as well as the different phases.
These stones are interesting. These are on the south side of the wall, but they were dredged out of the River Irthing, and they were part of the stonework of the various phases of the bridge, there were various piers to the bridge, and these were part of the piers. They had metal set in lead clamps linking the great stones together, huge stones, and they've got edges to them, was set down so that they web together. And there's some chamfered stones. These are part of the, you see them on turrets and various things. They're fascinating things.
I've been noticing this since we started at 248A. There's been this foundation layer for the broad wall already in situ, but they've never used it. They've just built the narrow wall on the top when obviously the plans changed.
It's interesting how it's quite tall.
Well, that's what I could never work out. I don't think many people can. That they actually started to build the broad wall properly wide, and then for some reason changed their minds and started building a narrow wall. But instead of taking these away and incorporating them into a broad wall, which you would imagine would have saved them a lot of time and effort, for some reason they actually left the sections of broad wall still here, still cemented together.
It adds to the mystery, doesn't
One of
it?
those enigmas, yeah.
Enigma. I'm into enigma.
Well, we're just walking up the very steep hill from crossing the bridge over the Irvine, and this is the Mile Castle of Harrow, which is the last one Mile Castle before the turf wall started, which is the first one to be built on the western section of Hadrian's Wall. And interestingly, just up here, a little something for you. Just turn around and get that. The wall does a slight kink up in the corner there, and that's because originally it followed the line of the turf wall. So when the stone wall was built, which was actually further to the north, it had to be realigned to meet up with the northeast corner of Birdoswald Fort, which is just over behind us. So it's a nice little
A little nuance. Yeah, that people wouldn't necessarily think of or have cause to think of. But as you said, I look at it now and think, oh yeah, absolutely. It comes straight up from the bridge abutment, that up a very steep wooded bank that there's no access to, and quite rightly so. And we've taken a skirt round and come up the access track from Underhew, which is a little homestead in the back valley bottom on the meadow. But anyway, we come up here, we got to the Mile Castle. There's a track, which is the access track to Underhew, which is on the line of, what would it be on the line of? Nothing, it's not on
the line of the North Ditch.
North Ditch, of course.
Ditch.
But the National Trail steps over the remains of the Mile Castle and heads on the south side of the wall. And it's a handsome stretch of wall, isn't it, Pete?
It's fantastic, and there's a cup of tea available at Birdoswald Fort, and not too far away, so I think we'll aim for that.
Well, there's so many features on that bit of wall. Let's save those for another day.
Well, we may give you a glimpse, but that'll be it.
This is a tantalising section of wall here. There's pallets, stones and all sorts, but I get to a stone like this on the top course, which really most people are unaware of. It's a Centurial Stone. It's to the 8th cohort of the century Julius Primus, and there it is, as proud as punch. You can just about decipher the letters, but to a wall buff like myself and Pete, that's absolute gold dust. What is this then, Pete? Explain to me.
Well, this is a phallus mark.
I'm not a phallus mark. That's a phallus mark.
Yeah, just uses a Roman good luck symbol to ward off the evil eye.
Right.
So we do like finding these things on Hadrian's Wall. It just adds this little human element to the monument.
And interesting, it points west. I wonder what the significance was.
Maybe the tea room.